Welcome everybody to this Short Run Pro video. In this video we are going to be covering a real quick project for you, a project centered around using a pallet to make a flower box. You know, spring is here, the sun is shining now, flowers are starting to bloom, summer's right around the corner, so you may be thinking about creating some creative container for your flowers. Maybe something at the store, at the box stores doesn't fit what you want. You want something that's unique. Hopefully this video installation will show you a creative way to create a pallet flower box and for your home decoration or outside or wherever you're going to put it. So before we begin the project, I want to give you some considerations about pallets. Now we deal a lot with pallets. We do a lot of shipping. We ship a lot of pallets, and so we deal with a lot of different types of pallets. But there's some consistencies in pallets that you'll want to keep in mind as you go through a project like this. Pallets are manufactured in a way that they will stay together and they'll be sturdy, yet be of as little expense as possible to create. So you're going to be dealing with some softwoods in a lot of instances. You're going to be dealing with some thin boards. Those tend to dry out, crack if you try to handle them too roughly. You're going to be dealing at the same time as you'll be dealing with some pretty significant nails. There's some pretty heavy gauge nails that they use to put pallets together with, and you want to be considerate of those. Also, pallets tend to be rebuilt or built and rebuilt, and you'll have nails in areas that maybe you don't even think there should be nails. This pallet, for example, has two nails that are inset right here into the top of this board. This is a nice thin board, but it's got nails in it. So if I were cutting with a circular saw or doing something there with the saw that wasn't made to cut through metal, I would have a problem. So when you're taking apart and putting back together a pallet, be considerate of those things. Also, you'll want to, as you take it apart, you may want to keep some of the features of a pallet, like a knot hole or something like that. Make sure that when you're measuring out that you're taking that into consideration. This is a pretty simple pallet. We've cut it about a third of a pallet off just to get the amount of pallet that we need to do our project. And this is made out of a nice soft pine wood, so it's going to be easy to screw into. It'll be easy to take apart, but we're going to show you how to do that. So what we're using here, we're gonna use the slats of this pallet to create a frame around a flower box, or what would be a flower box. And the interior of the flower box, what we're going to use is we're using a drip pan. This one is manufactured by Clarny Metals, which is a sister company of ours. It's fully welded. It's made out of galvanized steel, so it won't rust. The reason why we're using this drip pan is so we want to be able to keep flowers in here and keep it on the inside. One of the things that you'll find in a lot of your flower boxes and such is that they allow water to run out. Well, with the drip pan like this, we can place our we can place our flowers inside in their containers and actually water them inside the pan, and the pan will hold the water. So that'll give us the water will be retained in there, give us longer period of time with the water on the flowers. It'll also keep any type of drainage or anything like that from going all over a table or wherever it is on the inside. Now this is a galvanized pan, so it can go outside. It doesn't have a problem with being outside in the exterior. That's what it's made for, but it's also great for indoor use. So we're going to build our frame. Essentially, we're going to build our frame around this pan. And that's going to give us our flower box. And by the time we're done and you place a flower in here, the pan will essentially be invisible, and you'll see the framework around it. So, got my board cut off of the pallet. Now I'm going to measure this to get my two sides of the box that I'm creating to come off of this. As I mentioned before, I want to make sure I take into consideration the nail heads so that I'm not cutting through there. I've got nail heads on this end and I've got nail heads over here. So I'm gonna keep track of those things. I got a 12-inch pan. I know that because I measured it. Excuse me. It's 12 by 12, and so I'm going to want to make sure that I cut my wood to be just over that, say an extra 1/4 inch. So I'm going to go 12 1/4 inches. All right, so when I'm getting ready to create my frame, I'm going to have some overlap in the corners. I want to make sure that my boards overlap one another, similar to this right here. So I'm going to have to take that material thickness of my wood into account. Now I got my other two pieces. If I've done this right, they should overlap slightly, just like that. All right. Now I got my sides all cut out. I'm going to need to make the bottom. And as I mentioned before, I'm going to have a pan in the bottom, but I need to have a couple of pieces there to tie my frame to. So what I'm going to choose to do is I'm going to go to the back here. This is where your heftiest pieces of lumber are going to be on your pallet. So I'm going to take one of my bottom boards here. It's a little thicker than the other ones. It's going to form a better base than some of these thinner pieces. And I'm going to make a bottom. First, I'm going to attach these to one of the sides, one of the boards for the side, and then I'm going to attach the next one. So this is basically going to determine the arrangement of my bottom slats that are underneath the pan. Now what I'm doing here is I'm lining up my back edge with the back of my sideboard, okay? That's going to make sure that I got my overlap going on over here like this, but it also positions these boards underneath. Right here you can see I'm positioned underneath the pan. We're using brackets and some smaller screws here. So we could try to put it together with some large wood screws. The longer the screw is, the more chance you're going to have of splitting it. Also, we're dealing with some thin boards, so I don't want any screws that are going to go all the way through it. A bracket is a nice way to hold the wood together while not having to use an oversized screw in order to keep it together. So we're using some small screws compared to some larger ones. This particular project uses, well, it uses eight brackets, and using some small wood screws on this. One thing you want to consider when you're manufacturing, if you're concerned about the surface that's going to be underneath this, you want to put some kind of a small protection against the base to keep any type of metal screw heads or anything like that from touching or scratching your wood if you don't use something that's flush. The pan here is a 2-inch wall. It's a 2-inch wall height, so it should be able to hold enough water for at least a few days for your flowers. But you will need to be considerate of the fact that you don't want to overfill it because it will spill out. You can paint it, you can stain this, you can paint the brackets black, you can paint the whole thing same color. You can do whatever you want on the outside of this, and it'll be a nice, sturdy, durable, long-lasting flower box for you. So if you're ready to make your own pallet flower box project, we can help you out with it. Down below in the comments section, you'll find a link to the brackets and to the pan that we discussed and used in this project. And if you have any questions, please give us a call. Our customer service people are really helpful, and we'd like to help you out. Thank you very much for joining us today, and look for other videos in the future.